This long read episode of New Politics was released on the 20th of December, 2025, and produced on the lands of the Wangal and Gadigal people.
Welcome to our New Politics Holiday series, where we provide long read audio articles from some of our best published essays from the year, and these are from the recently published book, The Monday Essays, and that's available from online bookstores, and you can get it directly from us at newpolitics.com.au. Paid Substack and Patreon subscribers will get it for free as well. As we mentioned last week, we have finished up for the year, but we did have those terrible events at Bondi Beach last weekend, and our sympathies to everyone that's been affected by that. We did publish an article during the week to let people know what we think about all of this, and usually during these types of incidents we see the best of people come through, but I think this time around it's safe to say that we've seen the best of people and the worst of some people, especially from Conservative politicians. But David and I will discuss all of these issues when we return in late January with the regular podcast. But in the meantime, here's the first of the New Politics long read essays that we'll be providing over the holiday period. And this one provides an overall analysis of the 2025 year in politics and what we can expect to see in 2026. "2025 will be remembered as the year when the veneer finally cracked, not just in Australia, but right across the world. The comforting assumptions that once passed for political common sense have collapsed under the weight of a rapidly shifting global order, and the idea that democratic institutions could simply hold without vigilance or reform was exposed as a convenient myth. What emerged throughout the year was a global political architecture that's been redefined by doubt, misinformation and disinformation, as it has been for some time, and the rise of authoritarian movements just when the world needs to be guarding itself from these movements. Each week during the year, we seem to confront a new political crisis, a fresh media failure, another manufactured outrage, or an international disaster made possible by the silence or cowardice of governments that should have known better. Elon Musk attempted to position himself as a global political puppet master. Donald Trump returned to the White House with the same disdain for democracy he showed during his first term in office. Israel prosecuted a catastrophic and indefensible war on Gaza with impunity. And the international community, including Australia, responded with platitudes and measures of concern, instead of leading with principle. Australia's own political landscape didn't fare much better. The 2025 federal election campaign exposed two major parties travelling in entirely different directions, but trapped in the same tired cycle of slogans, misrepresentations, and the politics of the lowest common denominator. Peter Dutton's Liberal Party embraced a strategy of permanent hostility and ran a campaign built on anger, fear, and the endless stream of confected grievances designed to distract the electorate from their absence of policy and meaningful purpose. Under Anthony Albanese, the government offered competence and stability, but was reluctant to offer the great ambition that usually accompanies the Labor Party when they're in office. Elected in 2022 to end the chaos of the Abbott-Turnbull-Morrison era, instead, Labor acted as though they are terrified of upsetting the same vested interests that have spent decades undermining public trust and stymieing progressive reform. And then there is the media, one of the most defining characters within this entire political theatre, a landscape dominated by conservative empires, commercial self-interest, and the tightening grip of lobby groups to ensure that truth rarely makes it past the gates of the editor's desk. The ABC, once the paragon of media excellence and independence, showed just how vulnerable it has become as it buckled under pressure from the Israel lobby in the Lattouf and ABC legal case, and in the process making the ABC look weak and timid. Commercial media outlets continued their race to the bottom, amplifying the narratives of the far right and treating misinformation as a worthwhile contribution to public debate. This year showed a country that's caught between an outdated sense of itself and at odds of the reality of a shifting world. If there is one thread that runs through everything, it's that Australia stands at a crossroads. We can continue along the familiar path of weak leadership, timid media, and political parties terrified of their own shadows, and in the case of the Liberal Party, possibly disappearing altogether, or we can choose something better. This year also provided the evidence that the current institutional foundations that Australia has relied upon for many years are no longer fit for purpose. The year peeled back all the layers of myth, every assumption about stability, and every comforting belief that the country's institutions were somehow immune to the pressures destabilising many democracies around the world. Although Australia generally tends to avoid the excesses that appear in many other countries, it will never be an exception forever. As much as we'd like to think otherwise, it can always happen to us. We see vestiges of this throughout much of Australian politics. Failures of leadership repackaged as pragmatism, media disinformation disguised as balance, manufactured outrage used as a political weapon from the right, American billionaires interfering in democratic processes with a level of impunity that should disturb anyone with even a passing interest in politics. International partners, especially the United States, are proving to be unreliable and unpredictable, and quite often openly hostile to the values they claim to represent. The ABC's descent into its own brand of caution and capitulation didn't seem to be a one-off mistake. It was the result of almost 30 years of political interference by the coalition and a refusal to defend its own journalists. And with the horrors inflicted on Gaza by the State of Israel, with the active support and denials from Western governments, including Australia, exposed the moral vacuum at the heart of modern geopolitics. While this may all seem very depressing, there are some green shoots that are beginning to appear. There's a growing cynicism about the mainstream media and what they are withholding from the public. There's an emergence of independent voices outside the traditional party system. There's an increasing recognition that Australia's future lies in the Indo-Pacific region, not in the fading illusions of American exceptionalism or a British imperialism that ended many years ago. These are small shifts at this stage, but they are the signs of a country beginning to confront its own inertia and look for different ways of doing things. If Australia is to avoid the democratic malaise that we are currently seeing in the United States and Europe, we must choose to break from the habits that have defined their politics for too long. That means demanding a great deal more from our political leaders than they are currently providing. It means confronting media monopolies that continue to lie to us. It means rejecting culture war distractions that offer nothing but division and a paucity of debate. It means rethinking our foreign policy so that it serves Australian interests rather than the insecurities of faraway superpowers. It means understanding that reconciliation with First Nations people will never be achieved through symbolism alone. And that means demanding that leaders lead, not react and not retreat, or make the claim that the changes that need to be made today can always wait until the next election campaign, by which time the electorate has forgotten what they were initially demanding and everyone else has moved on. Democracies usually don't change in the one single moment, and history has shown us that they can decline very slowly over time, and then, like the final snowflake that ultimately creates the avalanche, it all changes very quickly. Whatever is to happen in 2026 and beyond will depend on the choices that Australia makes from this point onwards. But ultimately, Australia deserves better than what was given to us politically in 2025. And we deserve a better recognition that the future is not something that just happens to us. It's something that we need to shape ourselves. And while that is always going to be difficult work, it can happen if we can muster the courage to do so, and if we do this before someone else makes that decision for us instead. That was from the opening chapter from the Monday essays. There were a lot of uncomfortable questions throughout the year about who holds power, who speaks truth to that power, and who benefits from the silence. In the episodes ahead, we'll examine how these moral failures unfolded through elections, wars, media failures, and the steady erosion of democratic principles. And we started off talking about the cracks in the veneer, And once those cracks start to appear, it's just very hard to go back. So we'll be taking up these issues over the next few episodes. That's it for this episode of New Politics. Thanks for listening in, and we'll be back for some more next week.